is basically the same thing. They have different Terminator models, like different T-800s, so they might have different T-1000s with different faces. So not every T-1000 will look exactly like Robert Patrick. So it may be... Well, what's the actor's name? I remember someone telling me he was in the G.I. Joe movies. He's a martial artist character actor.
It's been years since I've seen G.I. Joe.
But anyway, I don't remember the name. We probably don't have enough time. Like I said, the reason this T-1000 looks different is painfully obvious. Because even though there's multiple Arnold Terminators and likely other different T-800s, there's also different T-1000s. So there may be another T-1000 that looks like Robert Patrick, and there may be another T-1000 that doesn't.
In answer to your question, the T-1000 is played by Lee Byung-hun. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly.
All right. Anyway, now to my thoughts.
Okay.
When I was introduced to the Terminator movies when I was a kid, way too young to watch them, by my father. Of course, back then I didn't like them because I was too young to watch them. But now, since I'm older, I'm still eager to watch the first two movies from start to finish, because nowadays they look pretty cool. I love the story. The characters are pretty cool. The whole premise is awesome. Like, a nuclear war would eventually destroy humanity because of a hyper-advanced supercomputer, artificial intelligence, gone rogue. I have not seen the third movie, but I've seen the ending to it on YouTube. It's uploaded. I did not upload it, by the way. I've only seen bits and pieces of Salvation, though. I've only seen barely bits and pieces of it. As for this one, it's good that we're getting a Terminator movie, and I'm hoping that they're hoping to fix the problem from Salvation, because I have a friend who saw it in theaters and he regrets it. But as for the name, it could have just spelled it like Genesis, but as for the spelling, I still don't understand it. As for the premise of retconning, well, I don't know if James Cameron will go for this unless he doesn't really care about the franchise anymore. But I digress. As for the movie,
it's being directed by Alan Taylor.
But, well, James Cameron did create the Terminator franchise to begin with.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
But I digress. As for the movie, I don't know what it's going to be like. The only way to find out is to wait till 2015. I still want to try and watch the first two Terminator movies. And it's a shame that Stan Winston is no longer with us, because he worked with James Cameron on both Terminator movies and with Jurassic Park.
Which basically I hope they try to put as many practical effects as they can, because like even looking back at the original Jurassic Park from '93 and even Terminator, those practical effects look amazing. And judging by this trailer, we got like that one shot of the T-800 and he's CGI. I looked at it, I'm like, it's not as good as it was before.
The thing is with practical effects is the actors don't have to use their imaginations. They can actually react to that, as opposed to be like, okay, where's my eye line? Gotta be up. Okay, I gotta look like I'm gonna crap myself there. Okay, I gotcha. And then the payoff isn't as good.
Yeah, well, speaking of practical effects, I heard they're going to use a lot more of them for the new Star Wars movie, but back to Terminator, from the trailer, it looks like we did see the CGI T-800. It doesn't look impressive compared to the models they used and the first Terminator and the second Terminator. And speaking of state-of-the-art effects for CG, for Terminator 1 and Jurassic Park, CG was pretty much state-of-the-art, and they were still experimenting on it to see if it would work. And it was and they were betting on it, and it did work. The T-1000 looked amazing.
And funny enough, Jurassic Park and Terminator 2 are the two films from the 90s that pretty much have are probably like two of the few films that actually have CGI effects that hold up today.
Indeed, they look amazing to this day, and it took a lot of hard work just to put them on the big screen. it was state of the art experimental technology that they were playing with, and if you there's two things I want to talk about before I move on. Sorry for that stutter. Did you know that there were two instances where they had twins in Terminator 2? There was
Really?
that
Twins
one guy.
for-
Yeah, Linda Hamilton has a twin sister who was stood in as her character at some point, and also, yeah, she was in as her character at some point. One was when she was playing as what was it? Sarah Connor in The Dream, banging on the fence just before that nuclear explosion, while Linda Hamilton was the one who was with her real life son.
Huh.
Of course, that
Oh,
sequence.
wow.
I saw that sequence as a kid, and it frightened me. But nowadays, it doesn't really frighten me as much because I'm older. But I digress. And of course, for the the other sequence? Remember that scene or the shot where there was a security guard. He was getting a cup of coffee, and the T-1000 seemed to morph straight from the floor in the exact same form. That was not CG. That was a twin brother side by side.
Wow. Because I thought that was green screen.
Right between his eyes, and then...
Because I thought that was green screen. It's like, whoa.
That was a twin brother. I saw it on the video.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think in regards to CG, how it was used back then, because, as you said, it was experimental, they had to do their darndest to actually make it as believable as possible. Whereas today, because it's used so much more often, I think people have gotten very lazy and taken the technology for granted because of the fact that, oh, it's not so hard to do that these days. Whereas back then, as you said, because it was so experimental, they treaded so carefully just to make it look right. And I'm kind of hoping, I know we're touching upon Jurassic World again, I'm hoping there's a nice balance between practical and CG effects in the same regards with Terminator Genesis. Like I said, with the CG Arnold they're using there, yeah, you can tell it looks as fake as they come, but you can tell there's a little more photorealism to it. I mean, yeah, as I said, we now can spot fake CG humans a mile away, but at first glance you think, okay, that looks better compared to what we've seen over the years. But as you say, it still comes off as a bit...
Yeah, that's why I admire directors like Guillermo del Toro today, who try to use as much practical effects as they can. Like if you look at the Hellboy movies, all of those creatures and all those characters are like people in costume and makeup. And even something like Pacific Rim, where even though you have CGI robots and kaijus, you still have practical sets, and even like the cockpits themselves were all built for the movie.
I think it was a similar thing for when they did Thunderbirds. It was one of the few things that they actually did get right about that movie. All the cockpits they actually did, particularly with the cockpit for Thunderbird 1, they actually did build a scale piece where the actors would be in, and it would actually hold that particular prop piece up in the air, just so the actors would actually look like they were actually flying the craft through midair. And because that movie was done on a budget of £50 million, which would translate to probably near 89, 92 million in the States, because CG effects are much more expensive over in the UK than it is in the US, and that's just to my understanding. They couldn't do as much CG effects and they would have done practical. But the thing is, we've seen from the original Thunderbirds that if the practical model shots done on scale model sets, you can fool the eye into thinking that they're real. I mean, they used practical model shot effects on James Bond's GoldenEye in '95, and nobody knew the difference.
Yeah. Well, I heard from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, they're going to use more practical shots. And as you said, if you from the teaser I saw on The Force Awakens, they said they're using more practical effects, even though there will be a little CG. I couldn't even tell some of the difference. I don't even know if the X-wings we see in the teaser were real or practical effects or CG or whatever.
I think,
but it still looks awesome, though. Sorry, go ahead.
I guess does this mean we're ready to move on to Star Wars?
Yeah. I think what I saw with that trailer, I think the only things that people have been able to really do well in CG is anything that's not in existence today, so dinosaurs, being one of them, because we've got nothing to compare them with to living dinosaurs, because unfortunately they disappeared 65 million years ago, so it's a bit difficult to get like a living reference to them. But in regards to vehicles or robots or droids, I like the way that they did I'm guessing it was just like a spin-off from R2-D2 that was just rolling around in the desert.
I saw that.
Do you know that one person has already got a tattoo of that one, like, soccer ball?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's dedication.
Like, it's not even, like, we haven't even got, like, a clear shot. It's like, it's, very blurry because it's in motion. That guy doesn't want to wait.
With that, I couldn't tell if that was a practical model shot or if that was CG. And the thing that I really liked about the tone of that trailer that I saw was that, yeah, you could tell it was a little bit more up to date. It had a slightly darker feel, but you could still get the Star Wars vibe from it, with the score in the background that sounded very, very John Williams in the background, and not just the actual theme played at the end. It was just that very sort of tense, very suspenseful atmosphere that it had there, and just the way that the camera, the lighting was done with the stormtroopers going through, and we don't know who is going to be the antagonist in that movie because, 1, the Emperor's gone. 2, Vader at this point in the story, because I'm guessing this is 30 years on from after Return of the Jedi, which makes sense because it has been near enough 30 years since Return of the Jedi. So, who could possibly be, the antagonist, the heel, the bad guy, the douche in all of this? And I have been hearing rumors that that Mark Hamill is coming back as Luke Skywalker. Again, only rumors.
I hate to interrupt you, but it has been confirmed that Mark Hamill will return as Luke Skywalker.
Awesome.
But I think along with Harrison Ford as Han Solo and Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia Organa.
It's going to be interesting to see what they can bring to these roles, considering, as we mentioned, it's been 30 years since they've touched upon it, and Mark Hamill is probably, with the exception of of Harrison Ford having a very successful movie career, Mark Hamill has also been known for the better part of the last 25 years as the Joker.
Yeah, I know.
Ew, I'm going back to this role as Luke Skywalker. Why can't I be the Joker, leader of the dark side?
Well,
a lightsaber! How wonderfully delicious!
I have this trailer downloaded. Yeah, I think you can download it. Well, anyway, I paused the video and it has this crossguard saber. It looks like fiery and unstable.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be the villain. I think from the leaked concept art, he looks pretty much like Darth Revan from Knights of the Old Republic, which is one of my favorite characters in that game. It's kind of hard to explain for those who don't know the expanded universe, and I wish they'd bring back some bits of the canon with it. Long story, don't want to get into it. But anyway, I think that's going to be the villain. And as for Luke Skywalker, I think he's going to be in a mentor kind of role.
Isn't one of the characters in the expanded universe called Mara Jade?
Yes. She was married to Luke Skywalker until Disney and George came along and said, no, expanded universe is not canon. But anyway, like I said, I don't I really don't want to get into this. The last thing I need is a debate with those who think only the movies are canon, everything else is just fan fiction.
That's okay, dude. That's okay.
Well, I'm wondering if I'm wondering if they're gonna at least take like maybe like the cliff notes of the expanded universe, like like Luke being married, Han and Leia having 3 kids, Luke starting a Jedi Academy. I wonder if they're gonna take like at least maybe take those basic notes from the expanded universe and do what they will on them.
Well, from what I heard, oh, sorry. Well, anyway, like I said,
oh, it's okay. Go ahead.
From what I heard, they're making the story is going to be different compared to what post Return of the Jedi expanded universe stuff had established. I don't really think they're not going to use stuff from the expanded universe. I think they're just going to use this. They're just not going to use the stories. This is from what I heard or was told. They're just going to use an original story. They're not, but they're not. That doesn't mean that Luke may not be married. Han and Leia may not have kids. From what I heard, it's just what I heard. I mean, there's no reason to believe that Luke would not start a Jedi Academy, would not likely get married. Han and Leia would not get married and not have kids. Because in the expanded universe, the saber I'm looking at is called a crossguard saber, which was introduced 10 years ago in a Clone Wars comic. It shows that they may use some expanded universe elements, and who's to say that they may not, that Luke will not be married having started Jedi Academy? Because in Return of the Jedi, I'm sorry, I'm a Star Wars nerd here, Yoda told Luke to pass on what he has learned just before Yoda passed away and became one with the Force. But like I said, I don't want to get in debates about the canonicity of the expanded universe, but I really think that they should at least take bits and pieces that a lot of people like from the expanded universe into the quote-unquote new canon. Because there's a lot of stuff in the expanded universe that they shouldn't just throw away because George Lucas doesn't like it or he has a different vision. But anyway, it's like I'm sorry if I keep rambling or repeating myself. It's very likely that Han and Leia do have kids. Luke has already started the Jedi Academy, is probably married. I don't remember what George Lucas said about marriage. I do remember seeing years ago, he did comment on her, but I have no idea what he said. But otherwise, I like the saber design. I have no idea what this villain is. But as for the Falcon shot, I love that shot from that movie. It's just amazing. Seeing the Falcon again for the first time since Return of the Jedi, with a new satellite dish on it after Lando busted it off in Return of the Jedi, it does make sense. But it's good to see old coming back again. Because I think I remember James Rolfe said, not as the AVGN, but as himself. People were more interested in the past.
Yeah.
I would like to say, like, it was funny, like, how you previously brought up a Jurassic Park-related Tumblr image. I found one image, like, last week where you see that mysterious cloaked figure with the crossguard lightsaber, and someone made a picture of it where he turns around, it's Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, I did not see that.
I'm trying to search for it now, but I doubt I'll find it.
Also, speaking of the crossguard saber, it's now become a meme. There's actually one crazy image where just he activates the saber and more blades end up igniting. It's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, have you guys seen the George Lucas special edition of that trailer?
That's where I saw it.
I remember looking at the time thinking, good lord, that man cannot leave anything alone!
I just want to make the trailer better. It still belongs to me. I want to make my movies better. Shut up, George. You caused enough damage.
I liked in this animated mockumentary style of how he and his production crew would do Lord of the Rings. Someone just said it in this voiceover. I don't use real locations. I use computers.
I don't like going outside. I just want to stay indoors and drink my coffee.
I mean, it astounds me how he went from doing Star Wars the way he did in the 70s and the 80s, you know, doing real practical effects. Fast forward to 99, all you see is a green screen behind him, and you're like, really?
Yeah. That's another thing I like about the one major thing I like about the trailer, that it gives you a feel for how the movie's going to look. And unlike the prequels, which were all very clean, very shiny, very new, I like how with this one it kind of goes back to that older aesthetic where everything's kind of like worn out, everything's kind of like slightly used, kind of rusted, kind of dirty. I really like it. It kind of makes it feel more real rather than artificial.
Kind of like how the USS Kelver was at the start of the 2009 Star Trek movie. It wasn't quite old, but it was nowhere near new.
I never saw that. I like to comment at least one thing. Even in the classic trilogy, they still had to resort to not using every natural location. They did have to use matte paintings and photographs and all that, because if you remember in Empire Strikes Back, the late Irvin Kershner said that they couldn't get out of the hotel one day during a blizzard because the doorway was blocked with snow, so they had to go to the other entrance or the exit after digging it out and filming it. Because while you see in Empire Strikes Back, while Mark Hamill was running around after he encountered the ice creature, escaping the ice creature, Irvin Kershner and the crew were inside the hotel filming, and in between takes, Mark would run in to warm up and drink some hot cocoa, or at least that's what I heard. So the Empire Strikes Back crew was nice and toasty, while Mark had to run around in the snow. And even Return of the Jedi, when you see the Death Star and you see the shuttle landing, I'm just assuming that was all models and a matte painting, because when you see I remember seeing this on the 2004 documentary. When they see that explosion of the shield generator, that was all miniatures, matte paintings, and models.
Well, it wouldn't have been CG, dude, because CG for Return of the Jedi would have been, that would have been nasty.
I know, it's not CG. It was all models, like physical models and matte paintings. I think I remember telling you this back when we did that Jurassic Park panel back. If they tried to make Jurassic Park in 1983 instead of 1993, they would just be tearing their hair out. I mean, imagine trying to use the Rancor effects for the T-Rex to try and break down the fence and walk out and look around and roar all in one shot compared to what they can do in 1993. The Rancor was originally going to be a guy in a suit, but it didn't look right. So they had to use like a motion capture puppet, and it looked better that way. But to try and make the T-Rex out of a Rancor-like puppet, to use the same mechanics they use for the Rancor in Return of the Jedi, which is actually really small. The model, the puppet, it's actually pretty small. It's no bigger than my head. Trying to get the T-Rex to use its mouth to rip out the wires from the fence, walk out, look around, and roar all in one shot would have been impossible at that time. Or at least really, really difficult. But still, I can understand why CG is around. Even in Terminator 2 and even Jurassic Park, CG was not in every single shot from start to finish, because it was still in an experimental phase. It was really expensive. Of course, nowadays it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Like anyone can do it. Anyone. But back then, they still had to use practical effects. And I remember, just before the death of the T-1000, if you look very closely, you could see that the remains of the T-1000, just before it fell into the pit of molten steel, it was a physical effect.
Yeah.
It's like a dummy, but you just got to pause it at the right moment and look closer, because they did build physical models for the T-1000.
I think we're going to have to wrap things up, guys, because we've been going near 3 hours now.
I was expecting...
And right now...
Go ahead. Sorry.
I guess, like, right now, like, going by the 12-hour clock, it should be, like, 11 o'clock at night where you are, MJ?
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Sorry to keep you up, MJ.
I've had people do far worse. All about wrap it up for this year's end-of-year panel for 2014. We went over the time limit again, folks. What can you do?
Mm-hmm.
So...
That's...
Now go on.
Oh, I was going to say, that's what happens when you get a bunch of film enthusiasts together.
Yeah, yeah. All things can and will happen. Well, from this year's edition, minus the X24 Rider, sorry you couldn't be here, bro, but, you know, you said IRL, so as soon as you say that, that's all chill.
He's here in... He's like a Force ghost. He is here in spirit.
Yep.
Kevin No sucks. We heard you, dude. From the Godzilla enthusiast Kaiju Noir himself, Sons of Sarazawa, I think that you do with you and your guys.
Yeah, I do. Am I allowed to plug this show?
Sure.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, we have a bi-weekly podcast called the Sons of Sarazawa podcast. Sarazawa named after the hero of the first movie from '54. It's just a crazy podcast just filled with insanity and nonsense. Like, if you're a fan of Kevin Smith's podcast, like Hollywood Babylon, or if you're a fan of, like, the podcast from, like, Spill.com,
I love these guys.
Where it's just, like, just a bunch of crazy, insane individuals just spouting out the weirdest thing ever. It's just pure fun, and if that's your sort of thing, then I highly recommend you check out our show. And we also have 2 spin-off shows. 2 of us went off and did a show called The Demons from Outer Space, which you can find on Zazibar's channel. And I had a spin-off show called Shoe Watch Super Dynamic Ultra Force Go, which is currently on my channel.
Alrighty. And we have another returning panelist from, well, going back to the first time whenever I did these end-of-year panels, the Phoenix, formerly known as the Firebird.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and you can call me whichever you want, the Phoenix, the Firebird. I'm Firebird Phoenix 87. I don't mind, but it's always a pleasure to be here.
Yep, and I have been the Knight, your founding panelist member since, I think, 2010, since I've been doing these end-of-year panels, and now I feel old.
Don't we all?
Depends on your point of view, but hope you've enjoyed this panel, folks. Hope you enjoyed 2014, because about the only thing that's been good about 2014 are the movies. Everything else, bleh, bleh, ugh. But until next time, Merry Christmas. Have a blast, and 2015, just hurry up and get here. This year has... Ugh.
We want our hoverboards and flying cars, damn it.
Yes!
Yes.
But we don't...
An instant oven Pizza Hut love
yes.
food.
Yes.
But we don't...
Yes.
But we don't want to wear our jeans jean pockets inside out. I mean, come on now. Come on now. And we still haven't gotten Jaws 19, darn it! Shark still looks fake.
Well, if you count all the other Jaws ripoffs and all the Jaws exploitation films that continue to come out, like Sharknado,
or Sharktopus,
or Sharktopus, or
so
sand
stupid.
sharks, or ghost sharks, or two-headed sharks, or Jersey Shore shark attack.
What?
It could be worse. It could.
No. Don't go there with that. No. Bad boy.
Sharks in space.
Space.
And I'm officially wanting to be done.
Okay.
Until next time, folks, he's been Kaiju Noir. He's been the Phoenix or the Firebird. He don't know. He probably having a personality crisis. Aren't we all these days? I have been the Knight saying good night from the night. Merry Christmas.